Welcome to Live at 5, sponsored by the Scenemakers Board. My name is Megan McCarthy Hayes, and I am the president of the Scenemakers. Thank you so much for joining us for this special event. Tonight, we will be celebrating the Goodman's long history with A Christmas Carol and the release of our audio play this year, with artists who will give us some insight into this beloved holiday tradition. Before we get into this exciting discussion, we wanted to tell you a bit about the Scenemakers Board. We are a group of young professionals dedicated to supporting the Goodman from the inside out. Our events and fundraisers support not only the groundbreaking work on stage and special events such as this conversation, but also the amazing education and engagement work the Goodman offers to students across the city. Without further ado, please welcome the artists of A Christmas Carol. We hope you enjoy, and happy holidays.
Hello, welcome to Live at 5. My name is Nina Arndt, and I'm the resident dramaturg at the Goodman, and I also co-adapted the text of A Christmas Carol for our audio play this year. If you haven't had a chance yet to listen to the audio play, it is available on demand on our website for free through December 31st. So I'm here today with our guests to talk about this year's production, the audio play, but also to speak about their involvement with Christmas carols past. So first up, I'd like to introduce Larry Yando, who has portrayed Ebenezer Scrooge in A Christmas Carol for 12 years on stage. There he is. And now 1 year in the audio play. If you come to the Goodman a lot, you will have also seen him in most recently Bernhardt Hamlet, also The Little Foxes, The Jungle Book, and Candide. And if you go to the Chicago Theater a lot, you will almost certainly have seen him. And I have particularly admired his work at the Chicago Shakespeare Theater. Next up, we have Penelope Walker, who has appeared in A Christmas Carol every year since 2005, playing a wide variety of roles. So she really knows the show from every angle. That's her in 2019 in the role of Mrs. Fezziwig. And we'll talk more about those various roles that she's played in various years. This year, you can hear her as Crumb and Mrs. Fezziwig. You might also have seen her at the Goodman in The Story, Crowns, and Wit. And like Larry, she has performed at many other theaters in the city, and she is also a veteran of the TV shows with Chicago in the name, Chicago Med, Chicago Justice, Chicago Fire. So you may have seen her there as well. And finally, we have Paris Strickland, who, despite her young age, is also a veteran of the show. In 2017, she became the first girl who played Tiny Tim in the Goodman's production. And there she is as Tiny Tim. She reprised that role in 2018 and 2019. And this year, you can hear her in the roles of Emily Cratchit, Newspaper Girl, and she's a child in the schoolyard scene. And outside of the Goodman, she is currently in 7th grade. So I'd love to start by asking all of you, you've obviously made the choice to sort of come back year after year. What is alluring about A Christmas Carol, or what makes you want to do it again year after year? Larry, let's start with you.
Okay. Well, first of all, I think the story is what I love and what other people seem to need, not just want, but I feel like it's needed. It's a story about redemption and hope and light at the end of the tunnel. It starts with a man who is like this, darkness, closed off, wall upon wall upon wall upon wall. And it's extreme, and he's damaged. And I think everyone, for whatever reason, the way the story's written, be from 4-year-olds all the way up to, whatever, recognizes a part of themselves in Scrooge, maybe to a lesser extreme, but stuck somewhere, not capable of bridging a gap that has sort of been here for a long time. And to watch this man go 180 degrees in the course of 2 hours and sort of find his humanity and find, more importantly, other people and empathy, I think it's exhilarating. And the reason I was forlorn this year that we weren't going to get to do it until we were able to do it, is I see the faces at the beginning of that show, a sea of faces, every performance, and I see the same faces 2 hours later, and it's like something has opened up. Tears, smile, everything. They've made this kind of journey, and everyone leaves the theater. And it sounds sort of, but it's true. Leaves the theater a little lighter and a little more hopeful. And people want it to happen again the next year. So they come back and they come back and they come back. And so do I, and so do other people, because it's this kind of revelatory, beautiful human story, that is put together with, the spectacle is fabulous, the sound design is fabulous, the acting hopefully is fabulous. At least the two people I'm looking at in front of me are fabulous. I know that. And so all that is in place. It all works together to sort of bring hope to everyone. And every year, one more thing, you asked, I'm gone.
Yeah.
Okay. Every year, it's funny, at the first rehearsal, and this was my 13th year, which I cannot believe. We say, boy, could this be a better year where we really need this story? Whatever the year has been, it always, it starts with, boy, we really need to hear this story this year. And you think it's unique, but every year it happens. And I'm here to say this year, more than anything, and I really mean it, and it's not hyperbole, it felt, when we all walked into this rehearsal room / new recording studio, it was set up with protocols very safely to do this audio version. I burst into tears when I walked into that rehearsal room. Just that I was going to get to do it, just that I was seeing my family, my fellow actors and artists from all over who have been shut down for 8 months and our lives taken away from us, and that the Goodman managed to get this story told, and we were all there doing it, albeit in plexiglass booths. Didn't matter. It was a beautiful 2 weeks or whatever it was, 8 days that we got to rehearse and do it and tell the story again. And truly, it felt like more than ever, people need to hear this story. Hopefully it will revive them. That is a long answer, Nina, as to why I keep coming back and why I think people come back, but I believe in it that much,
Yeah,
okay.
That's a great answer. This year, more than any other, of course. And so Penelope, for you, this journey with A Christmas Carol began in 2005. What for you has been the thing that's kept you coming back?
I remember my first day, and I think it was Sharon Sachs, who was a part of the company then. She said something like, "Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. You're going to love it." And I remember thinking, step back, I'll find out for myself. I mean, I didn't say that, but sure,
Yeah.
I have to say, Larry he talked about family. That's what we become. Every year that I've been there, each company becomes this family, this group of people who are eager to tell this story. And it has been fun every year. It has been necessary, like he said, and very enjoyable. And one has to be cut out for it. It's a schedule, you know.
Sure.
A lot of shows a week, 9 shows a week, and sometimes those 9 shows run into the next week. So you kind of have to like people and get along with people, and we've done that.
Yeah. So Paris, you had this incredible experience 3 years ago, being the first girl ever to play Tiny Tim at the Goodman. You also came back for more, right? After that initial experience, which must have been so exciting for you. What has kept you coming back to the Goodman?
What's really been keeping me coming back every year is just the excitement of getting to put on a performance for people to just enjoy, and the people I get to work with, and the time that like we spend together. Because honestly, the theater really is like my second family. It's like I enjoy working with the actors, the stage crew, everyone who is involved with it. It's like people don't understand, like, oh yeah, sure, it's your family. It's just people you work with. It's just employees. It's not. It's just everyone is so warm, welcome, and it's really good memories with everyone as well.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, what a great experience to have at such a young age as well. Penelope, I'm curious because you have, every few years, you've sort of switched roles. You started off playing Abby, who is in our production now is now Abe, and Mrs. Dilber. For a few years now, you've been sort of on your current track as Crumb and Mrs. Fezziwig. What have you learned about the story or about the show by seeing everything from a kind of different point of view every few years?
I feel like the perspective definitely shifts with each new character. I was the ghost of Christmas Present for a few years, and there was something in those years that made me feel like there was an opportunity for change in the present moment. And that was exciting to me, to be able to be a part of that storytelling. I got to feel, I thought, while I was Mrs. Cratchit, the hardship of being a parent with trying to make ends meet, and also that other end of joy without, having joy even if there wasn't enough money, finding ways to make it work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's been really, and Mrs. Fezziwig is glorious. I mean, she's throwing an awesome party. So with a wonderful partner. So yeah, all these different roles have really given me a new lens in which to see the show.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so, Larry, I've in some ways the opposite question for you, because you've had an opposite type of experience. And, usually an actor plays a role once. You do a production, it runs for X amount of time, it's over. And even if you were to be in that play again, one could say be in The Tempest twice in their career, but it would be a different production. You might be playing a different role. It wouldn't be at the same theater necessarily. But you've had the same role in what is sort of the same production, although each year is a bit different. But does it feel like the same production each year, or does it feel like it's kind of a different production each year?
Yeah. Well, it is a very unique experience for an actor. It's funny you should say The Tempest. That's the one Shakespeare show I've done 3 times for 3 different theaters at different places, and I think of them as very different. With this, every year there has been some cast members who have done it the previous year, maybe many, like Penelope or even Paris, and some who only had done it 1 year. So you have this kind of memory, and I think depth a layer that you add to. It's a fabulous feeling, and also unusual because we usually have to do all that work, actors, in 9 weeks or 12 weeks. The arc to how deep you're going to get is about 9 weeks. And then you can think back and go, oh, I wish I had done that. Well, in this instance, I've been able to go back and sort of seen enough familiar faces that it kind of bubbles and simmers all year, and you don't usually get a chance to see what's cooked, and now I've been able to do that every year, and it sort of adds a bunch of just secondary behavior, and sort of there's a whole life inside me. Couple that with there's always new people every year, right? So again, as actors, what we do is we respond to what's happening in the moment and in the present, right? So that always keeps you not sort of sitting in the past in your mind. You have to be present because there's new elements. So it's actually a perfect cocktail for an actor, you know what I mean, that really has not happened to me before. I mean, I got to do it with Tempest a little because the lines are the same, you can't change, you can, but you can't change the plot, and so that's there. But with this one, I have other people providing energy who've had the experience before too, and then embracing the new at the same time. So it always has that crackle to me. It never feels like you're dusting an old chestnut off. You know what I mean? And sort of just showing it. You always have to come in on your toes because there's new elements that happen, and every director brings something new too. And this year was a totally new director, Jessica Thebes. And so that she has a voice that is exciting and fabulous, and that's always fun too. So it deepens and stays spontaneous, hopefully, at the same time.
It certainly feels like it for me watching you, is that like you are in some ways doing this for the first time, even though it's the 1000th time.
Yeah, right, really.
Literally, maybe, yeah. And so Paris, for you, you played Tiny Tim for 3 years. What was it like for you this year to sort of leave that behind and transition to something else?
It was obviously different because Tiny Tim, he was this younger boy, and now I'm playing an not older, but like in a way older girl, because Tiny Tim was like much younger than Emily. But it's nice still being in the Cratchit family because I enjoy those scenes with all my castmates in the Cratchit family. So that's still fun that I still get to be part of that. But it's a different perspective because the past 3 years, I kind of was playing the role and like in the role of a sick little boy who had this whole bunch of hope and was not going to let anything really stop him. And now I'm kind of in like the side character's perspective, and I'm seeing like, okay, I'm the sibling. I'm kind of observing, but I'm still like a part of the whole picture. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So you also sort of like Penelope, you got a different view of the story.
Everything.
Yeah. That's great. So for me, working on the text this year, and I've worked at the Goodman for 12 years, but I've actually never had a chance to work closely with A Christmas Carol until this year. So that was a really unique opportunity for me to get to really dive into the Dickens novella and study that very closely and bring a bit more text from the novella into the audio adaptation. And I realized pretty quickly, and Jessica and I both realized pretty quickly that, you're working in what does feel like quite a different art form, a related but different art form, because a lot of the sort of modes of storytelling shift. You have to tell a little bit more than you can show. You can use sound, and you can use language and music, but you can't use anything visual. And so I'm curious to hear from an acting perspective, what was this process like? What was it like to only have your voice as an expressive tool when you're accustomed to having this huge, a huge number of tools at your disposal in terms of being able to show things physically? Yeah, Penelope, go ahead.
I will say that for me, it felt, initially, we had our rehearsals via Zoom. And then when we got in the room,
and there's everybody on Zoom.
I really, I really felt like there were times when I pushed. And I think I pushed because my body wasn't doing the thing on stage. So I did have the director, Jessica Thief, was saying things like, let's try it again. And she was gentle, but I haven't been in the room for months. So it was a little, I was tender in getting those notes. I got these notes and I felt like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. But, we did have the opportunity, which was great, to do it again and again and again. And it actually didn't really need that many times for us to get it right,
Sure, yeah.
And Jessica, it was exciting to have her in the room and to have her in my ear, or all of our ears, to, guide me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Paris, what for you was different this year? And to clarify for the audience, the adult actors were in the rehearsal room with plexiglass dividers behind them. I think we have a picture of that. There we go. So they were able to see each other through these dividers, so they could act together, but they were, safely distanced from one another. But the young performers in the cast recorded from home. So Paris, what was that experience like for you, not being able to sort of use your body to act, and for you actually not being able to see your scene mates at the time you were acting?
It was definitely harder, I would say, because it's like I only have my one thing to use, my voice, and only using my voice, I have to make emotion. I have to make them visualize what I'm doing, make them visualize how I look, what I dress like, all those different factors. And also being over Zoom, sometimes, technology doesn't always work all the time. So that was, of course, very fun to have to do. And we'll have, because usually when we're recording recording in person, we'll have the help of other actors to kind of play the other person's part. So we kind of know, okay, this is how that's going to sound. Now I'm going to sound like this. During recording at home, you kind of had to envision it in your mind and be like, okay, I'm guessing this is how the scene is going to go. So I'm going to make it as best as I can.
Yeah, that's quite a task, actually, because then you're doing the other actor's work in some ways as well in your own mind, just so you can play your own role.
Yeah.
Larry, what was it like for you? And Larry, you're such a physical actor. And normally when we see you perform, we're getting so much from your face and from your body. What was it like having only one tool for you?
Yeah, I initially I was worried about that, because so much of the stuff, as actors, what we do, the goal, I believe I'm talking for most actors, if not all, the goal is to have your mind, your body, your spirit, your soul, your heart, all working in sync to communicate. And you, hopefully with experience or just talent, you can each one of them will take the lead at any given moment, to sort of tell the story in the best way. And all I could think was, oh my gosh, I do this. This moment is in silence. It's crucial that they see me open this gift and respond to the scarf, just as an example. And that wasn't going to be there. And I started sort of editing and listening to myself and manipulating and thinking I should put it into my voice more and trying to do way too much than that, and I thought, so luckily that lasted about 10 minutes before I realized I just have to do the play like I do the play and trust that everything I've tried to learn over the years and try and improve and put all those pieces together will read through the microphone. And if it doesn't, the sound designer and the director will somehow make an adjustment. I'll take the note and go on. So what I did, and I think a lot of people did this, our microphones, I've talked about this before, were on the brim of our baseball caps. So they were right there, and they were stationary. It was brilliant what they did. Richard Woodbury, the sound designer, and probably you and Jessica too had a hand in this. But anyway, so if I moved, the mic still stayed at the same distance. We weren't locked into a stationary microphone. So we had room in those plexiglass booths. So I just did the play in my head, stood if I needed to, talked to someone over there where I could see them even though they were 10 feet away, turned over here. From the morning I wake up in the bed, Scrooge wakes up, I just played the scene. I was miming blankets, but in my mind, in my crazy actor mind, the blankets were there. And I just did it, and then I relaxed and I felt much freer and much more in touch with the story. So I'd like to say that I tried to, sort of physically channel it into my voice, but I basically just tried to do what I always did. And hopefully, if it's complete and honest and full and potent, I had to trust, and I still trust, that would come through and people would receive it no matter how it was. So that's how I dealt with it, and it also made it a full experience for me. And I can't help but think that the listeners, hopefully everybody out there, would sense it as a full experience and not, a disconnected voice reading something. Someone, hopefully it comes through as a living, breathing person going through everything I talked about earlier, and not some sort of audio book, because it didn't feel like that, and I don't think it came off like that, and that's exciting and good. So
yeah, I agree that it comes off as a very full experience as opposed to a sort of half experience.
Yeah.
And you mentioned also Richard Woodbury, who we're incredibly fortunate to be working with. Richard, who's a designs sound for the Goodman frequently, and his work really took center stage, pardon the pun, in this production. Of course, there is no stage, but his work is so central to telling the story and making the story work. So he I think is supporting so much of Jessica's work as a director and all your work as actors and all of the text, and that he's kind of bringing it to life in a really incredible way. I know we have a few questions, but
oh, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I apologize. I was just going to say one of the things I love that you did, and that for me personally, I love the language in the original novella. And I love the fact that in order to, like I said, I couldn't open my present. They couldn't see me open this major plot point. So it either had to be dropped or addressed in the narrator's voice. Scrooge joyfully opened the gift and ran to whatever. And what I love is that we didn't really have to make up lines out of our own head. There was this original source material that you couldn't get a better author because he's the author. And you could pull right from that original book, which I love. So it felt like it got this year, the show was kind of forced to be, and then fortunately was more Dickensian, just by the very nature of more Dickens language in it. I love the narrator became a very big part. He became crucial as a bridge to the audience. And there's this lovely, amazing actor, Andy White, who played it. He had a lot of work to do to sort of carry us into the era, and he was so present and so wonderful. And I feel like the whole Victoriana kind of Dickensian feel really sort of oozes out of it because of that. And so that was great. And that was you sort of putting a lot of that together, which was...
Yeah, and I was really thanking my lucky stars, honestly, when I was looking at the Dickens and just thinking, oh, thank God we're working with Charles Dickens here.
Yeah.
Just because everything he writes is like verbally delicious. So there's no line that you could add almost that would be sort of like dull exposition. It's always giving the listener something that's like a little piece of ear candy.
Right. It's like Shakespeare. It's like there's one half of it that is the dictionary definition of the words, that information we're getting. And then there is the order of the words and how that word rolls into the next one, and that sort of oral world that also communicates so much, because that was a part of how he heard it and wrote it. So you get like the double whammy of rhetoric and also, just dictionary sort of meanings of the word. And that was great. I secretly hope that some of the stuff that you guys put back in stays in when it's on.
Yeah.
I like the way you talked about ear candy, because it made me think of radio plays back in the day that I wasn't around for. It just is a lot of imagery that it created, and so I think that audiences would really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's certainly a perk that we get this year, getting to hear a little bit more of that. We don't get as much visual things, but we're getting so much orally.
Yeah.
We have a couple questions from the audience. Before we go to those, I would love to hear just from the three of you, if you can think very quickly, what is your favorite line in the play?
I'll let you guys go. I know mine, I think.
My favorite line would, obviously have to be, even though I didn't play it this year, God bless us, everyone.
That's a great choice, Paris. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't beat that line, Paris.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's it. It's the heart of everything.
I think mine is, I am happy. And Scrooge says that.
Who just said that? Because my
Penelope.
screen just froze. That's why I'm asking.
Penelope
Was
said
that you, Penelope?
We can hear you, Larry. You're a little iffy visually, but we can still hear you.
Okay,
Yeah, it
so
was.
did you just say your favorite line is "I am happy"? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
mine. She stole my thunder. No, okay. Actually, can you hear me? Just nod if you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So as weird as it is, because it's probably one of the least Dickensian sounding lines, but the moment of that realization, like, what is it, 7/8 through the play then, Penelope? About 7/8 the way through. It's like in the morning after he's woken up and he's about to go out to the world and he sees himself in the mirror, and the line is just, I've loved it since the first day, is "I am happy." And I also love it because you could do it a million ways, and every actor would, I'm sure, do it that moment very differently. So, and for me, it's this kind of surprised, happy, regret, everything in kind of 3 words. You know what I mean? And I love lines like that. I love lines that don't take a. I also love circuitous lines that go all over the place and you got to rip them off your tongue. But then there's these short lines that with direct language, with 1 or 2 syllables, like "I am happy," that sort of just land and sum it all up. And that moment and that line for me is my favorite too. I'm glad it's yours, Penelope.
You know what? I mean, I think I've heard that the definition of "I am happy" is something that is outside of a person, influencing their inside. But I, I know he's had this journey and this experience that's happened on the outside of him, but I really feel like it's an inside moment, and that he expresses, and I feel that moment in that very simple short line.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The simplicity of it is so beautiful. Yes, in the midst of all the ear candy, kind of. Yeah. Yeah. So beautiful. So I think we have a couple of questions from audience members. So Catherine Duffy says, "Paris, hi baby, miss our Tiny Tim time. Looking great, y'all. Question for Larry. During the long runs of Christmas Carol and given the intensity of the role, how do you keep yourself healthy and ready to get out there every night?"
Oh, well, it gets harder and harder every year. I will say I don't. One great thing for me is weekday. I do get weekday matinees. There is an alternate Scrooge who does. So I don't anymore. I don't. I. It's still, for me, it feels exhausting. But the way I do it is right up to the last minute of going on stage. I have to take a couple minutes. I sit backstage. I just sort of center myself. I have to have quiet. I'm not a big yacky before a show person, which helps a lot of people. It doesn't help me. And I don't go out. I do not go out for drinks or anything after. I absolutely go right home. I stay home most of the day. I do, you know what I mean? I'll do a grocery run or something, but I really don't do anything else except this show, because we figured it out. I get to leave the stage, I think, twice, but I have to come right back out. I have like 5 seconds at one point, and I have 12 seconds, and it's timed down. You know, I can get a sip of water. Someone wipes my brow because I sweat a lot, and if need be, I quickly blow my nose and then I'm back out. So there's not a lot of time off stage, and when I'm on, I'm listening, and I think it's the other actors is what keep me going. The story and just doing nothing else is really, And sometimes that's frustrating because everyone else, it's a very joyous feeling, this play, and audiences are joyous after, and you try to muster a little hi, thank you,
Right.
and you look, I
Yeah.
always look like I've been through a grinder, like half dressed and
Right.
sweat. I'm really repulsive at the end of the show. I may be happy, but it's hard to look at.
Well, you're giving audiences your best efforts. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I will have to say it's definitely admirable to watch you have such work ethic. I mean, in between each show, if we have a couple shows a day, I mean, if there's a potluck or something, I mean, he puts that food in a little container for later, and he goes and lays down somewhere. He is not. He's a great guy, but he's not. Using his instrument to play around. He knows what he's doing.
Thank you. I think I tried the first couple of years, quite honestly. I think I stayed to the end of the potlucks the first 2 years, for all the prizes and stuff. And I realized I just couldn't. I had to be careful. I had to watch it. My voice, everything, and so out of necessity, I'm kind of boring.
Saving the excitement for the stage. I think we have one more question. Do you have any special rituals, traditions, or superstitions when you're performing on the Goodman stage? And Paris, feel free to chime in too if you have any.
Yeah, I just was going to say the one I said, which is I'm not. Some people are very up and need to sing and play before any show, not just this one. I need. I like sort of not chatting. I need to sort of music, but very silent, and that's really true at the Goodman, and that's about it for me.
So I wouldn't really call it like a ritual. I would just call it like a fun thing that we did. So me and the other young performers, and we would go backstage, and before every performance, we would kind of do this like soup thing where we would have like a pot, and we'd say like what we were gonna do for that performance. Like I would be like, I'm putting in like listening, like that we're all going to be listening, and then someone else would say I'm going to put in like we're all going to be respectful, and I'm going to put in we're going to have a great show. And then we would all like have like that day we'd be like, okay, today we're having like, I don't know, Smurf cups or Harry Potter cups, and we'd have our like cup or thermos, and everyone would pass the soup, and we'd all drink the soup, and it would be like in our bodies, and then we would have like the listening skills in our bodies, the being respectful in our bodies, and then that's how we would do the show.
That's brilliant, Paris. I love that. I feel like the adults should do that. I'm not kidding. Listening, focus, excellent. I didn't know that. That's amazing.
I think a lot of adults in a lot of areas of life could maybe borrow that.
Yeah, just drink it. I love it.
Before they leave their homes, right?
Right.
I think for me, I was always, before our second show, especially before my first show, a cup of coffee. Before the second show, a brisk walk.
Perfect.
Oh, that's good.
It was nice because we were right by the river. So it was really nice to take a really brisk walk amongst a lot of people usually, but it always just got me pumped for the next show.
Perfect. Well,
they do. Oh, sorry, Nina.
Joining us. Yeah.
Well, I think they might be interested in this. The person who asked the question.
Yeah.
On Christmas Eve performances, the music director every year has a tradition where the entire company meets before And there's always a warm up with him before every performance. So the group gathers together, and they sing Silent Night, right, Penelope?
Mhm.
Yeah, and he's done it every year. And that's kind of definitely tradition and definitely a ritual. No
Yeah.
matter
And
if
he's
someone's
special.
running late, he makes it happen. You know?
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much to all three of you for joining us and sharing your experiences both in Christmas past and Christmas present with our audio play. And to everyone listening, I hope you get a chance to listen to the audio play if you haven't already. And we also want to wish you, from the Goodman, a very happy holiday season. And finally, I would like to extend our thanks to the Scenemakers Board who sponsored this event. And if you would like to help support this event and the Goodman's future endeavors, you can go to the URL there that you see on the screen. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, everybody. And we will hopefully see you in the theater sometime in 2021.